In this module, we're going to demonstrate how to configure the SX10 TC endpoint via web browser. Our SX10 is on the network and it has an IP address. And that's all it needs. From there, we can connect to it via web browser. We've got all kinds of settings that we can modify via the web page. And in this demonstration, we're going to show you how to do that, what that looks like, so that you'll be able to do this in your environment. All we need to do to sign into the SX10 is put in the IP address and then the username and the password. We've done that, and this is the home page. And we can see the system information. We've got the serial number, the software version, we've got the IP address, and the MAC address. We're going to need that MAC address when we register this to our Unified Communication Manager. Right now, we've got it set up to register to a Cisco Collaboration Edge server, which means it's going through the firewall, through the internet, and we're going to remove that registration and then point it to our internal demonstration Unified Communication Manager server. We can also see that it has H.323 and SIP proxy information. That's because the SX10 can register to both VCS using H.323 and Unified Communication Manager using SIP, which is what we're going to do. Right now, it's currently registered, as I mentioned, to the Edge server, and then it's being controlled by another Unified Communication Manager. We're going to set it up to use ours. To examine our configuration and make changes, we're going to go to Setup, Configuration. And from here, we've got the different components of the SX10 that we can configure. We're going to start with audio. These are the settings that apply to the microphone. We've got a room microphone on this product, and as we can see, we're running echo control. That prevents the other side from hearing their own audio, so that when they speak and it's sent out over our speakers, our microphone doesn't pick that up and then send it back to them. Next, we're going to take a look at the configuration options for cameras. I've spent a lot of time here in the past trying to make some changes because depending on your lighting, if you've got bright LED lights, that can have a negative effect on how you appear on camera. And so I've had to come in here and try to make changes and adjustments. And then I realized maybe I should change some of the lighting in the room. So I did that in addition to changing some of the settings here under the camera. The backlighting, the brightness, the combination did the trick. Your mileage may vary, but this is where we're going to go to make those changes. If we scroll down all the way to the bottom, we can select video. From here, we can modify settings that apply to inputs. And one of the great things about the SX10 is that in addition to being easy to use and having a nice camera, is that it also has the ability to input. You can plug in an HDMI or a monitor cable, an RGB cable, so that you can push input into your call. You can share content. So you can share your desktop or any other external presentation. From here, under the Video tab, we can make changes to those settings. We can go into the different connectors, label them, change how they're presented, change some of the quality settings. We can scroll down to the bottom, and we get into how our presentations are used. What position are we going to be in? What position are the far side going to be in? Are we going to allow picture-in-picture? So we can make changes to how we're presented, how the far side is presented, how picture-in-picture is presented, whether or not we're going to be able to use self-view, if you want to see yourself while you're on camera. I know that sometimes when I'm doing a presentation, I like to look at myself in addition to everybody else so that I can see how I'm coming across. Well, that option to do that is going to be available here under the video settings. For being such a small device, we really have a lot of configuration options with the SX10. Let's go in and take a look at the network settings. From here, we can configure the device to use IPv4 or IPv6. We can set our DNS server. We've got the option of enabling the IEEE 802.1x port-based security. This allows us to authenticate devices at the switch level before those devices are allowed to participate and communicate with other devices on our network. So it allows us to make sure that we know exactly who's joining our network at the port level. If you can't authenticate, then you can't participate. And the SX10 gives us the option to enable that. We can scroll down further and see that we've got the ability to set our IPv4 and or IPv6 address, subnet mask, gateway. And we've also got the ability to configure our QoS settings. These are going to be the markings that we put on our packets at layer 3 so that our switches and routers especially can analyze those markings and then decide which class we fit into. We can mark audio, video, and the signaling, H.323 or SIP. Those are the ones that most video and voice endpoints are going to mark. We've got the ability to set our voice VLAN. This is going to determine which network we're on. Best practice says that our collaboration device, our phones, our video units should be on a different subnet than any data devices, any computers. We accomplish that by setting VLANs at the switch level. Now let's scroll back up to the top and then take a look at the Maintenance tab. From here we've got diagnostics, system logs, call logs. We can do software upgrades, backup, and restores. Let's examine our diagnostics. And we can see that there are different color diagnostic messages, or there can be different color diagnostic messages depending on what errors or what alerts the SX10 wants to give us. One of the reasons that we would get a yellow alert is if we enabled the Do Not Disturb setting. If we went to diagnostics, we'd see a yellow alert reminding us that, hey, if anybody calls you, it's not going to work. Your Do Not Disturb setting is marked on. One of the reasons that we would get a red alert would be if we didn't have a password set for our admin account. Those are some of the different alerts that we can get under the Diagnostics tab, and you might want to remember those if your goal is to pick up a certain piece of paper. We're going to take a look at Setup, Personalization, and from here we can change the background and the ringtone. If you do decide to upload a picture to use as your wallpaper, remember that it has to be 4 megabytes or less. We've examined the SX10 configuration page. We've demonstrated the different menu options that are available. Coming up next, we're going to demonstrate how we can use Telnet and/or SSH to connect to our SX10, and that's not very easy to say.